Welcome to the Holistic Career Change Podcast, one-stop shop for everyone feeling stuck in their career and who are looking to identify, change, and succeed at their new fulfilling work. I'm your host, Vilma. Let's go. Hi, lovely people. How have you been? Tell me everything. I sincerely do love connecting with all of you, and I've been receiving such beautiful messages and people sharing the stories. So if you feel like saying hi to me and telling me how you've been, please do. Please find me on Instagram and say hi. It really is my favorite thing to receive those messages from you. Now, today is a big day. I have another Inspiring Career Changer series interview for you. Now, I may be totally biased because today I'm interviewing my beautiful friend of 16 years. And as I say 16 years, I want to scream in my head because that makes me feel very old. Hilde Vartdal Solum, and I totally just butchered it, is my amazing Norwegian friend that I met back in London at university in 2005, and we instantly became best university mates. She was the yin to my yang, and we pretty much were inseparable, to be honest. So much so that our fellow students gave us a nickname, Hilma. So Hilde and Vilma, get it? Hilma? Because we were just together all the time. So instead of saying, hi, Hilde, hi, Vilma, they would say, hi, Hilma. And, Hilde and I, we shared so many values, which is we really took our studies very seriously. We were working extra hard and we ended up getting our first class degrees. And the only thing that we were doing harder than studying was partying. Hilde and I took our going out game very, very seriously, and you'd find us out 3 to 4 times a week, somewhere in central London, dancing the night away. So even though we do have similar educational background, both of us studied international business, and then I went for finance masters and Hilde went for international relations. Interestingly enough, both of us ended up changing careers. So I brought Hilde in today to share her story of her switching from a very comfortable job in banking in Oslo, Norway, to transitioning into teaching. And I really don't think this is a very popular decision or a very common switch. And I bet it raised a few eyebrows when Hilde ended up doing it. And that's the reason why I just had to have her on to hopefully inspire all of you to follow your personal mission and your calling. So here's the interview. Enjoy. So, hi, Hilde. Welcome to the Holistic Career Change Podcast.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
Yay, so good to have you here. The reason why I recorded the intro is because I know what happens when we get together. We just start reminiscing and laughing about all the stories and Hilma and Hilmania. Actually, we guys had a country called Hilmania. And what happens is usually it's only funny for us and other people are just rolling their eyes, really not, you know how you have those stories to share and other people don't always get. So that's kind of what happens with me, Hilde, and another friend of ours, Lewis. So that's why I recorded that, to get that out of the way and we can move into and talk about the career change. So maybe we'll start with just you introducing briefly and telling the listeners a little more about yourself, current life.
So I think I'm 35. Can't really keep up with my age. I have 3 kids and a husband. I live just outside of Oslo. I teach 8th to 10th grade in a local middle school. So in Norway, that's like 12 to 16-year-olds. That's the short version, I guess.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hilde has 3 kids, you guys. I mean, I cannot even imagine my own life. I don't know how she manages her life and the kids and going to work and having a husband. Maybe that's another podcast, but I don't know how you do it. How do you do it?
I think think it's a matter of, well, first of all, grandparents helping out. That's one thing. We have four
Right.
of them close. And
Right.
then I think it's just something when you reach that situation, you just have to get by. But I like being busy. I mean, yeah, I like being busy, but still, sometimes I wish I just have a bit more time to myself. But I
Yeah.
will get there. They're getting older, so yeah.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like that's the common thread that you hear from mothers, right? Like the one thing that they miss the most is just an uninterrupted time for yourself.
Yeah.
So do you ever like check into a hotel or something? Well, I guess you can't do that in COVID, but I know a lot of my friends, they just do that. They just leave
Yes.
the house and, get a room for a night.
Before the pandemics, yeah, we used to have a lot of, not a lot, but a few weekends to ourselves. But
Right.
get there too, maybe next year.
Yes, fingers crossed. Anyway,
Yeah.
so okay, so I love linear stories because I feel like that helps to really, understand people where you're coming from. And what I thought we could start with is just you sharing a little bit more about your background, because I know that growing up you lived in different countries, you were exposed to different cultures, and maybe that in a way shaped, who you are today. So maybe you can just talk a little bit about that to start with.
Yeah, so my dad was in shipping, and so we moved around a bit. My mom was a teacher. So I lived in Japan when I think I was, yeah, 4 till 7, so 3 years. I don't remember much, but to this day, like Japanese food is my absolute favorite because of that, I guess.
This is
And
just the
then,
wildest thing. And weren't you like speaking Japanese as well? I think your brother
yes,
mentioned, right?
yeah,
Like you
I
were
was
so fluent.
fluent even. But when we got back to Norway, my brother and I, we just refused because we didn't want to be different. So we didn't
Right.
want to, yeah, stand out from the rest of the kids. So we just stopped speaking Japanese. And our parents tried everything, but they
Hmm.
couldn't make us speak more Japanese. So it's all gone. Well, I remember like how to write my name, and that's it, I think,
But that's
which is
still
a shame.
that's a cool story though. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
yeah. Yeah, it is a shame, but yeah. And then we came back to Norway, and at 16, I moved to Singapore again because of my dad's job. Stayed there for a year, went to an international school. And after high school in Norway, I moved to Spain to learn Spanish, worked as an au pair, which was interesting as well. And then we met in England, 2005, and I studied there for 4 years.
Hmm.
And I've been in Norway ever since. Well,
Hmm.
I had 5 months traveling, and then I stayed in
Yeah.
Norway for the past 10 years. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a lot of cultures. And Hilda also speaks fluent Spanish, which is just fascinating. So that is really, I know, I'm in awe of that. So sort of when you were nearing your time where you already had to choose what to study, where to go to university, what was that decision process for you like? Did you always know what it is you wanted to do, or
yeah. I guess I'm one of those people who were always jealous of those kids who said, "I'm going to be a doctor," or "I'm going to be a fireman," or whatever.
Mhm.
So, oh, I wish
Yeah.
I knew what I'm going to be. That would be so nice. But I never knew, and then I just felt the world was open. I just want to get out of Norway. That's what I knew, and then my grades were quite good, so I thought, well, I could study most things, I guess. And then I just love the international environment, and I thought business would be like, it just felt safe because I assumed it wouldn't close any doors. So I thought that would be a good choice. And I wasn't really passionate about it. I just thought that'll be fine. And it wasn't any pressure either from my parents. They just said, well, do whatever you want. We don't mind. We'll support you, which was nice. But it also kind of made it harder. So okay, whatever. I don't know. So
Hmm.
that's how the international business degree, which was quite a nice degree. I don't know how you felt about it. Well, we did talk about it at that time, but how you feel now. But I just feel like there were so many options when it came to the subjects. So you could study anything from, the hardcore economics to HR to languages, which was really nice about those studies in Kingston. And then, yeah. And I think I was a bit inspired by my dad. He was like in the business, well, shipping world business. And I just sort of looked up to the way he managed his working life, I guess. He accomplished quite a lot. And I thought maybe that could be something for me as well. So I
Hmm.
think maybe that was part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think, yeah, we're definitely affected. And you know what you said, I totally resonate with what you said about wanting to know, because I also had classmates who were really good at maths, or something super specific where I was always so jealous. I'm like, I wish I had that clear direction, but I really think it's just minority. Like I read different reports, but they say it's only around 5% of people who are actually know they're almost like they're born and they already have a very clear direction and it's very hard to steer them away. And the rest of us are kind of just, walk around half blind, stabbing at things, trying things, right, and seeing what fits. But I do agree with you. I guess for me was I felt like just as you, I was interested in so many things and kind of good at everything, but not excelling at one particular thing. And I thought business studies would give a nice foundation, which would allow me then to kind of taste all these different things and then make a decision from there. So I ended up going towards finance and you did international relations. So can you talk to me about that? What was it that drew you in to study international relations?
Yeah, I sort of knew I still want to stay in this international environment, but I found business a bit too, I don't know. I started finding politics more interesting at that time when
Mm,
I sort of got close to the mid 20s. Well, how old were we? 23, 24 at that point? Yeah. So I thought maybe international relations, where I got to focus on the international politics, would be more interesting, and maybe it will feel more like purposeful in some way. To me, the business world seemed a bit too harsh, or I don't know. I didn't feel like I could have
soulless,
any
like,
passion for that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that area. I think that's what drove me to the international relations degree, which was a very good. I really enjoyed that master's, by the way, but it was really hard. I graduated in 2009 from my master's, and this was after the
The
financial crisis.
crisis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so hard getting a job in anything. So I
Mm.
think if I would, maybe I would have stayed in that sort of international relations, politics areas. If I got a job, I don't know. No one
Hmm.
knows.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
maybe in a parallel universe, you are
yeah.
traveling around. But like,
Hmm.
so because you keep on mentioning the international aspect, and obviously you were exposed to that growing up in your early adult life. Do you still miss that? Because you ended up kind of you knew you were going back to sort of Norway, and then I feel like you were very steady in there, and you now have a family. Do you ever miss that international aspect, or do you feel like your current job kind of gives you enough fulfillment and you're okay?
I, in some ways, I do miss it. I'm still looking for like jobs in. We have a few international schools around Oslo, and
Hmm.
I am looking for jobs, and I'm also thinking about taking the family for like some sort of gap year, maybe teaching in Spain or whatever, so we could just move around. I want the kids to have like steady base, like a place where they belong, which I also did even though we moved around a lot. But I'm not done traveling, and I'm not done like living in different countries. So I
Hmm.
want to find a way to like mix those two in a good way for all of
Yeah.
us. Yeah,
Yeah, and I
because
think it would be great for kids as well as they get older, right? Like all these memories and also just them being more culturally aware. You're probably going to be one of those like old retired ladies who just travel
yeah,
till you
hopefully
where you can't
the
walk,
plan.
but but
Yeah,
you're still traveling.
yeah.
Well, if
Would
we
love
ever can with the corona and stuff, so we'll see how that goes.
to. Yeah.
Okay. So that actually brings me to my next question. So I know that exactly like when you graduated, like it was the famous financial crash. So what did you do when you finished? And how did you go about finding your first sort of serious adult graduate job?
Yeah, so I applied. I sort of knew, or I thought I wanted to have a trainee position, as I didn't know. I still didn't know what I want to become. So I applied for a few trainee positions, and in the beginning, I didn't get any. So I talked to my friend Jeanette, as you know her, probably remember her. And I said, if I don't get this job now, I had this interview in this big Norwegian company as a trainee. And I talked to her and I said, if I don't get this job now, we can travel, because she was waiting for me to go traveling, and I didn't get it. And then we said, okay, we'll travel around the world for like 6 months, and then we'll see what happens. And that's what we did, which was one of the best years ever, in
Mm,
addition to uni life, which I really enjoyed as well. And after that, I just came back and I applied, and I got this job as a substitute teacher, just for like, I think it was like 6 months originally. And I just had that job while I kept applying for those trainee jobs in the corporate world. And then I got a job after like 9 or 10 months. So I was sort of trying teaching before I got into this corporate world, which was
mm.
which I really liked, but I didn't feel like I could like sort of waste my education and all those years spent
Mm.
in the
Yeah.
business world or in
Yeah.
the studying business. Yeah, so I landed a trainee job, and then I felt, okay, this will be interesting, which it was definitely. I kept thinking about this teaching job all the time.
Right. So that the
Yeah,
trainee job, what was it? What industry was it in? Like what was it, the
yeah, it
banking
was.
one?
Yeah, it was in banking and insurance. It was one of the. I think it's like top three in Norway. It's not big internationally, but it's like top three Norway banking and insurance company.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a 2-year program. We had 6 months in each position, and then we moved around 4 times. It was my first like proper meeting with the corporate world. I really liked the way you felt appreciated. You know how you got the pay was all right, free food, free travels, all this kind of stuff was. You just felt like they really want to invest in you. But then I
Mm.
couldn't really find any of the tasks that I did, which was a lot of tasks in 2 years, 4 different positions in 2 years. I couldn't really find any of them fulfilling, which I was hoping for the whole time. I was like, okay, the next one will be good. The next one will be good, but I couldn't find it, and it was just such a shame.
Mm.
And then this thought grew. I was like, okay, I have to do something else. Maybe teaching is my thing after all.
Mm.
After trying to get away from this, I didn't mention. Well, maybe I mentioned my mom was a teacher. And I thought, well,
Mm.
I'm not. That's the one thing I'm not going to do in my life. I'm not going to be a teacher.
So when was it that decision that you made? Like growing up, you were saying that you didn't want to be a teacher, or like how was it?
I don't know if I said it, but I always like it was in my mind. I was like, well, that doesn't seem fun or interesting, and it's not appreciated in Norwegian society. I guess in most countries, it's not
Any
really
society,
appreciated.
to be honest,
Yeah,
is everywhere is underappreciated. So like, but I wonder why, I wonder now I'm got curious. I wonder why you had that idea that you would not want to be it, was whether it was appreciation factor, or was it that you didn't see your mom enjoying it? Like maybe it was something to do with her, or like what was it?
but she really seemed to enjoy her job as well. So I really don't know what it is. I think it's like something with I'm not going to be like mom, that kind of feeling.
Yeah, like rebelling,
Some
the
people,
rebel
yeah, some
streak.
sort of rebellion, and we're
Mm,
quite similar. So it's not a surprise that I ended up doing the same thing. I think for most people, but to me, it's like no, I'm not going to do that. And also, I was always maybe a bit closer to my dad, or not closer, but I sort of maybe admired him more. So I wanted to go in more like in his
mm,
direction than my mom's direction.
yeah,
And now I
yeah,
totally appreciate what she has done. She's done a lot of good things. But growing up, I don't
right.
think I really realized.
Would you be happy if one of your sons told you that they want to go into teaching?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
would you?
definitely. Yeah, I would be really happy because I find if they would find this kind of fulfillment that I feel in this job, I'll be
Hmm,
really really glad. But yeah,
yeah. You know what's really interesting, the bit that I want to ask you about, because as you know, like I did all kinds of gigs after university. I did corporate, I did public, I did a lot of things. And it really took me a while to come around to my career change, right? For me, it was a very long process. And like really losing that identity was something that I feared, because just like you said, it was that sort of status and prestige that came with holding certain positions that my ego really did not want to let go. And I thought that I was going to be disappointing people. But it seems like you fairly on in your job kind of realized that, listen, I kind of need to make a change. Like, didn't you, was there a part of you that kind of was talking you into staying for longer or hoping that it would get better? Because that's where a lot of people get stuck. So that's why I'm curious what went different for you.
yeah, definitely. After those 2 years, I applied. Well, we could apply anywhere within the company, and I applied for like it was a divided position. It was like project manager and key account manager position, which I got, and I stayed there for a year. And during that was my final. I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. This is the position that could be right for me in this corporation or in this world. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to do something else. And then I think after a few months, I was like, okay, that's it. It doesn't work. I have to do something. So I did my teaching education at the same time as I finished, or as I had that job, and then
Oh, so you already
took it.
started the teaching education while
Yeah,
you're still at the job.
yeah. And
Mm.
I thought, okay, I'm gonna finish or at least get ahead in this education, and then I will quit. And then I applied and I got a job straight away. It's not hard to get a job in teaching, unfortunately, because we don't have enough teachers, which is a shame. But yeah,
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then I just thought, okay, this is it. I'll just do it. And then the
The
rest
rest
is
is
history.
history.
Yeah.
So did you have to go to like a university like to get education to teach, or is there like a system is
Um,
different?
yeah, it is university, but for people with another education, education is shorter for teachers.
Right,
So
right, right.
you have to
Okay.
do like a year and a half with yeah, different sort of subjects just to make sure you're fit to teach, even though you know your subjects well. So I did that. Start teaching education in Norway. It's like 5 years. It's a master's program. So we're trying to do something about the teacher status and yeah, trying to sort of
Mm, yeah.
do something about the attitudes in the society towards teachers. But that was a short education, which was a perfect fit. I could never, I don't know. Well, I could probably start another 5 year education, but I really don't see that happening after going through all of
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
everything.
So,
So,
yeah. So was there ever a time, like at least once, where you kind of doubted your decision now looking back? Do you feel like it was the right decision, or do you ever catch yourself thinking, I wonder?
no, I've never. No, I don't think I've ever looked back. It felt right the whole time, and when I walked through those doors in the school, it sounds really cheesy, but it was like, okay, this is my world now, and it's so right. It
Really?
just felt so right, and I've had that feeling ever since, which is
Mm.
really weird, but it's
No, but I'm getting really excited because I am a believer in that. I really feel like our body is usually sending a signal so that when you have those moments, it really means something. And it is really that sign that you are at the right place. And we really should be looking for more of those signs to know whether we're on the right track. So the fact that you felt that, I love that you are sharing that. And I think like that's a great takeaway for those who are still in the search and they
yeah,
don't know what it would feel like. It may feel for you differently, but you'll definitely know when you experience that. Um, so
yeah,
yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's the gut feeling that tells us what to do.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
Um, so how were like that's a question that I always ask. What was it like when it comes to your immediate environment and your support? Were they supportive? Were they questioning you? What was that like?
Yeah, I didn't talk that much about it when well I had everything thought through, I guess, when I started telling people about this. And most almost all of my friends and family were very supportive. They were like, "Yeah, this sounds right. I think you should do that." Some people just ask questions like, "Well, are you not managing the job properly? Is it something?" No, I was like, "No, everything's going really good. Like my boss is really happy with me and everything is fine. It just doesn't feel right." And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's really, and it even came up like so many times during, because I got married just the year after this career change. And it came up so many times in the wedding speech about how brave this was and how big a thing this was to change a career. And they all call me like, "Oh, you're such a tough like person. This is really like." I was like, "Oh, okay. Is it that big?" Apparently, it is to change the career. I mean, I thought it happened all the time, but it doesn't seem to happen a lot.
No, it's not.
No,
It's
yeah, it is interesting, but they were really supportive, and they said, "Well, that sounds right for you. I think it's a good fit for you." And yeah, which I thought was really nice to hear.
like kind of that reassurance for
Yeah,
you.
exactly. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah, it is a big thing. It's so funny how like I love how you were going through all of this process, like not really thinking much of it. Cause as you know, because I work with career changers, I also meet a lot of people for whom is such a traumatic experience. Cause also, and I guess it really depends on our mindset and our beliefs and, the internal dialogue we use. But a lot of them attach a meaning to it that they failed or like that they made a huge mistake in choosing a different, course of actions and choosing different studies. And so that is what is holding them back. It's almost like they don't want to admit to themselves that they failed. But really, I think for you, it feels like it was more like you looking at this as a redirection versus you failing at something.
yeah, exactly. And I think it's such a shame to look at it as a failure because I mean, I use so many of the like skills and the subjects and everything from my previous studies and my previous job. I use so much of that in my current job, even though it's totally different. So I think nothing is wasted. Okay, so maybe I had to go through that whole process just to find a job that's fulfilling, but that was totally worth it. and so many experiences. And I mean, even just studying abroad, even though the subjects were right, maybe the total experience was completely amazing. I would never have been without it. So I think it's just important to remember that nothing is a waste, really.
Mm-hmm.
You just learn as you go the whole time.
Exactly, right? It all kind of is cumulative experience that
Yeah,
adds up, right?
yeah,
And we, with my clients, I do a lot of exercises when it comes to them identifying transferable skills, and they're always amazed just how many skills they learned in
yeah,
different industries are completely transferable and can be applicable to any area that they're moving into, right? So just to add to the point, nothing is a waste, really. Everything that you experience was leading you up to this point. So that's beautiful. Another question that I have for you, and maybe it's also a little bit of a cultural difference, but I know a lot of the changers are being held back because they think about finances and say if they want to choose from corporate to anything else, really, there is a chance that they'll probably be, getting a smaller paycheck, or maybe income is not going to be stable if they become self-employed. How did you deal with that factor without obviously revealing too much details? I'm not asking you for numbers, but like, what was that like for you?
yeah. It was a thing, but although in the Norwegian society is quite like egalitarian, so the pay it's not that different. It's not like my paycheck was suddenly half the number of my pay in the bank. So I guess that was part of the issue that made it a lot easier to change. Because if I knew I put the family in a difficult economic position, maybe I wouldn't have done it, or maybe I would have at least thought about it a few more times. And then also, yeah, my husband's job was steady. He didn't earn that much either, but it was okay. So I guess that's part of the issue. It would be
Mm-hmm.
completely different if I earned a lot less. Although I would have to say, if I talk to those people who were trainees with me at the time, I guess they earn a lot more than I do now. But it's really not about the money for me. And I think that's so important to say. If you're unhappy 5 days a week, it doesn't make any sense just to stay in the job because of the money. It really doesn't make any sense. Then you can manage with buying less things or going to less fancy restaurants, I think. It's
Yeah.
so important. You have
Mm.
to get up Monday morning and be happy to go to work most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Like it's not like every day is going to be ideal, but there's such a different energy that when you're doing something that you love and believe in, right? So like believing, finding the meaning and the purpose in what you do, I think that's very important to a lot of people. So let's talk about that. So you mentioned the age group that you're teaching. What subjects are you teaching again?
Yeah, so I'm teaching social science, history, Spanish, English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And
I took,
so
yeah.
can you just give us a little more like details of what it's like and the aspects that you enjoy and what is the aspects maybe you don't enjoy as much so that we would get a taste of what it's like being you.
Yeah. Yeah. So about the teaching job is it's about trying. I always feel like it's about making a difference. So I can go home and feel like, okay, I think I made someone learn something new today, which they really needed or that they have to learn, or I think I made a difference by noticing them, trying to be the person that they feel have that they really need some grown-ups to see them during the day. They're teens and they're very insecure. And I love the busy environment. It was busy in corporate as well, but in a completely different way. You could sit down with your coffee and you could have a lot of meetings, but when you walk into the school, it's like 10 students wanting to talk to you, or the boss wanting to ask you something, or whatever. It's busy all the time, but I really, really love it. It's like something's happening the whole time. I never have time to sit down and be bored. Never. I don't think I can remember one day when I actually sat down and I was like, oh, this was a boring day. It hasn't happened for 7 years. I don't think it's going to happen for the next 20.
And you
So it's
enjoy that? And you
I
enjoy
really
that
love it.
part?
Yeah.
Because all the introverted and empath people are now listening to you thinking like that's like the definition of hell for me.
Yeah.
But that's what I love. Like we're so different and we have to find what works for us and that like is energizing for you.
Yeah, very. Yeah, I love it'll be a nightmare for me like to stay at home with my computer for a year, like most of you have had to do. Oh, it'd be so horrible. So I've been happy the schools have been open, even though there's been a lot of COVID and everything. Yeah, so the busy environment and just like the feeling of sometimes, I know you can't make a difference the whole time, but sometimes you actually feel like you made a difference, which is really, really nice. And then, yeah, for the challenging parts, I guess, like when working in banking, I would go home and I feel, oh, I did a good job today. It was enough. It was fine. And if you wake up the next day and could do the same thing, you feel it was enough. But with teaching, it's like I never feel that I've done enough. It's like I could have prepared this lesson better. I could have talked more to the students. I could have helped them more. You just never feel like you have enough time to do it properly. And especially after having kids. I mean, when I go home, I don't have time to work the whole night and the whole,
Mm.
yeah. So yeah, no, I just really sometimes I just say I could have done this. I could have done this job for free because I love it so much. Not every day, but some days I have that feeling, which I think
Mm.
is really valuable, very, very valuable.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that is something that you need to look for, right? Like one of the best questions to ask yourself when you want to switch is what is it that I would do for free?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What is it that I believe in so much that I would do it even if I had another job? So maybe if you stayed in corporate, you still would have found activities that would help you kind of support people in one way or another, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that would be my hobby. That's what I did actually when I was in corporate. I worked in Red Cross with kids, which was really fulfilling. And I was like, oh, maybe I should do something more like this every day, not like once a week. That
Yeah.
was sort of, yeah,
I love that. Like
yeah.
I think you're selling teaching well.
Okay, that's good. Ooh, yeah, that's that's important. We need more teachers everywhere.
Maybe you could be like, so are they sort of preparing some sort of campaigns in Norway now to promote teaching? Like maybe you can be a poster teacher.
Well, they're doing a few things. Like I said, they want to have the master's education, and they also now they pay teachers to add more subjects. So, like next year, I'm going to get paid to study more English, and you can apply for that, and you can like work 60% and study 40%, and you get a full pay. So they do a lot of things to like help teachers get better, I guess, which is nice. But I think it's all about it's so deep in the core, like thinking about teachers as I don't know, as less worth or even yeah, just
Why do you
something
think
you
that
do to.
is? Do you ever feel comments like that directed at you or anyone like making remarks kinda in
No,
that
not
direction?
personally at all. It's more like just the general attitudes. I think like when I talk to my teens at work, they want to be like they want to be lawyers or they want to be real estate agents or they want to be
Influencers.
yeah influencers, last but not least. So
Yeah.
it's not a profession that people feel that they want to be or do, which is a shame, I think. Yeah,
Mhm.
but I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. It's hard. I think there's a few countries who actually like Finland. I think they have very educated teachers and they have quite a good pay and everything. But I don't know. In most countries, it's not like that.
Hmm.
It's a shame. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, like the teachers and the doctors, they think like, well, now with COVID, I think like the doctors and the, medical care and all of that system, they did get more appreciation. But really, did we really have to have a global pandemic to
Yeah.
recognize the people who are serving us like that?
Yeah. I
All
agree.
of yeah, throughout the years. And another thing that you said that I want to kind of go back because I noted down when you said that during the day you get to give them a gift to the children of being seen. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think you're working with that age group where really they're like trying to get into terms with them becoming adults, right? And it probably is a challenging time. So can you talk what did you mean, making them feel seen?
I think it can be because they're in the age where they're sort of, trying to be or opposing their parents a little bit. And I think
Mhm.
that teachers can have a bit of they can still joke around a bit and still be an adult that they can rely on. So it's just
Mm.
about like and you never know who struggles at home. That's so hard. So I just try to like make sure that at least I say hi to everyone, make a joke, or it's just so important to have grown-ups that you respect and that will be there for you if you need to talk. And I've had a few cases where they actually come and say something and you'll be like, oh, thank you. And you know them
Mm.
for 2 years and you say, yeah, please share because you need to share this with someone. And when they finally do, you just feel so rewarded because it can be students you haven't probably they don't even reply for a few years, and then they come to you and you just know that the hard work is appreciated. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just about they need to have those like secure adults around them that actually they feel that they can confide in if something happens, or at least just I know they're not looking forward to go to school, but at least they would say something like, "Oh, Hilda's lessons are all right. I actually learned something, or it was fun, or whatever."
Yeah.
Then I feel that it's fulfilling if they say that, which they
Mm.
do once in a while. I mean, they're teens, so they don't share too much, but yeah.
Yeah. No, forget it. So
Yeah.
did you already have, are you like, do you get like love letters from your students?
No, not love letters, but one thing that was really, I had an amazing class when I became pregnant with the twins. And
Hmm.
when I told them I was going to quit, they made this like beautiful letter with like saying all this nice things about me, and
Aw.
told me and Christopher on this front cover. And they baked a cake and they had a poem, and I was like, oh, I was so
Oh
touched.
my
Oh, it's
God.
so
You must
meaningful.
have cried so
They
much.
were so yeah, they're so sweet. And I mean, it doesn't happen with all the classes, but once in a while
Yeah.
you get those rewards, which is really
Yeah,
nice. Yeah,
totally.
but
So
not
is it,
love letters. No,
oh
I
yeah, it's
don't.
your young
Yeah,
teacher, you know.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Now I feel like now that I have you in a hot seat, I feel like I want to ask all the questions I wish I could have asked my teachers when I was growing up. I'm like, is it true that you have favorite students?
Oh yeah. I don't know, but well, not. I have to say we like all our students, but some students are so much easier to get to know. Like so,
Mm,
from some students you don't get any response back, and you really have to work hard. So it might seem like we have favorites, but we don't. But some students are just easier to communicate with, which is yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, so how do you see sort of moving forward? Do you want to continue like teaching? Because I know you mentioned to me privately you were thinking of maybe a different age group. Can you share your future plans?
Yeah, I still want to teach for a while, and then I feel like I'm in the right world, so I want to stay like working in schools. But I think I want to eventually work with like administration or management. So maybe just have a small department or have the responsibility of a small group of teachers. Maybe would be nice because I just feel like in the classroom, it's all about sort of trying to lead or manage the teenagers to go in the right direction. It's the same working with adults. I think I'll find a lot of the same traits trying to
Hmm.
lead or manage grown-ups. So I think that would be an interesting way to go on. But this is like when my kids are older and they're still too young.
Hmm.
Teaching is a nice job when you have small kids actually because it's quite flexible. Like we work a lot. I work a lot of like late nights, but sometimes you can leave the office at 1 or 2 and you can take a
Mm,
break and then you can grade your papers at 9 in the evening. So it's a good job when you have kids and also you have longer holidays, right? So you can stay with the kids during the holidays. So I think
yeah.
as long as my kids are quite young, it's a really good job to have. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. So if any of you out there are thinking of, getting into teaching, the time is now.
Yes.
There are a lot of perks to being a teacher. Yeah, but I totally resonate. I'm just, thinking of what you said. I am curious as well as to why teachers seem to have such a bad rep in
Mm.
general. And hopefully that like, your generation is going to be that generation which is going to start changing the outlook on teaching. Yeah, I don't know what has to happen. I really I have no clue, but I hope that there is some movement in this area as well of how teachers are perceived.
Yeah, me too. And I think, as you said, maybe COVID will actually help. That will appreciate the kindergarten teachers and the teachers because we see how important they are to actually make our days go by properly, like being able to work. And I see even with my kids how important the kindergarten teachers are to them. Like, oh, I hope he's there today. I'm so excited. I'm going to make this drawing for him or her. And I just think
Really?
this is like one of the most important jobs that you can have to take care of kids
Yeah.
to, actually make sure they turn into proper adults down the line.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
So, what is the career advice or what is the advice in general that you could give to those people who kind of already have an inkling, which direction they want to go, but they still have reservations or they're fearful? What is it that you would like to sort of share with them and advise?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's like listen to the inner voice or the gut feeling or whatever you want to call it, because I don't think it's never wrong. It's never wrong. It will tell you what to do. And then if you're that kind of person, then I would say just talk to close family and close friends. For me, I needed to work through that on my own, but I think a lot of people would need to talk to family and friends, or even like talk to a coach like you, Wilma. I think that's really important, and maybe even a coach is better because you're a bit like more subjective, I guess. No, objective, I mean. So you can actually
Totally the most subjective
very
person. I
subjective.
love you so much.
To
uh,
help you sort out your thoughts. And then also, I listened to one of your first episodes where you talked about values, and I think that's so important. What do you need to get out of your life? You spend so much time at work, you should actually love it. So, what are your actual values?
yeah.
And then finally, when you work through all of that, is I would say just do it. I don't think I don't know about your clients or whoever you talk to, because I didn't listen to all of your podcasts, but I don't think people regret this
Hilda, you
career
didn't
change,
listen
right?
to all of my episodes.
Oh, we have to do that now.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah,
Yes. No,
you
please.
won't regret the career change. I think that's really, that would be really weird if you have this strong gut feeling and you would regret doing that. I
Hmm.
don't know if you heard about people who actually regret it. But I don't think it would happen.
No, never. Never.
No,
Never
no.
heard anyone regret it, to be honest. That's a good question. No one has ever asked me that. I haven't.
Mm,
And yeah, and I agree with you. I think like, and I talk about this quite a bit, is that there's just so much information and understanding you will get from thinking about a subject, but really the true meat and the true like, gold comes from actually experiencing it. So at some point you just have to jump. You just have to jump and, try it out. And if you fail, at least you've tried and you can move on without regrets. Because I feel like for me personally, I think about this a lot, which is like regrets lately. Like, what life do I want to live that I would not come to this age and think like, oh man, I wish I would have done that. Because even in my life, I already see there are certain experiences that I kind of was talked out of, and I still feel a little that like, nudge, but like, oh, I wish I went on Erasmus. Like,
mm.
like little silly things like that where like I allowed other people opinions to sway my decisions, and I'm like, never again. Like, even if it doesn't make sense to others, what's the most important thing is that it would make sense to you, and that is what matters, right? And others, the ones who love you, will always adjust, like even if they don't get it at first. And those who don't, these are not your people, and it's okay to let them go. I really think it's like really simple as that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, yeah, what you're saying about not looking back and thinking, oh, I should have done that. I actually, when I was working in the bank, I looked at, there was a department working with like customer complaints and, well, all customer support in general, I think. Yeah. And they were all like 50 plus or even 60. And I knew they'd worked there for like 40 years. And I looked at them, I was like, oh, they look so miserable. And they were only looking forward to lunch. And I would look at them, they were just looking at the watch like, okay, 1 hour left, lunchtime. And I just thought, okay, that cannot be my life. This is not happening. And that was part of my decision because I just thought, okay, I can't do that.
Yeah.
It's so important to just do it when you're young. You never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. Or even if you're not like quote unquote young, I didn't even know what's young. I mean, I'm
I don't,
34. I feel like I'm 24, like 30 is the new 20 anyway. Right? They just just do whenever it feels right for you. But I totally agree. I think like another good like litmus test is like if you look at your boss or supervisor, and if you do not want to become them and be in their position, then you are definitely in the wrong place. Right?
yes,
If you
that
do,
is a good advice. Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so it was so good to catch up with you. I feel like I'd love to talk to you forever about this, and I feel like we have so many topics we want to cover. But yeah, I think that was a very, very nice example of what it's like to follow your gut, to follow your heart, and really, like Hilda said, like once you're on the right track, you will just feel it and and like you will be supported in ways that you cannot even imagine. And yeah, you just gotta trust it because it really is worth, like Hilda says, you spend so much time at work. And if it's something where you have to, like, I've been in that position where I was counting down the hours, counting down the time first to lunchtime. And then from lunchtime, I would counting down, for when the 5 p.m. is on so that I could like grab my things and leave. And I just felt like it was such a sad existence. And this is not what we came here for. Right. So thank you so much, Hilda, for coming on and sharing your story. I'm really grateful. And I know that the listeners will enjoy it. And yeah, if people have questions about teaching, can they message you?
Yeah, sure. Oh, that would be
Okay.
really, yeah, please do. It was really
Yeah.
good talking to you. It's good to
Mhm.
reflect on career change, I think. Because
Yeah.
when you're done, you're sort of done and you don't really have time to reflect that much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your life could have been completely different. And I love it how you're like you were surprised that people were telling you that you were brave and you were not really realizing it in a moment. What a big deal it was.
Yeah. Yeah, because to me it felt so right. So it didn't feel brave. It just felt like the right thing, which is completely different
Right.
in my mind, right? I'm being
But I
brave.
feel like that, yeah, I feel like that just shows that you're like really in touch with yourself. And like when you have that like link and connection to your heart, I think like it's much easier. But it's when we get clouded and our brain gets bombarded with all the shoulds and musts, that's when it's much easier for us to lose track.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you're a beautiful example. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best to the boys and Christopher, and hope to see you in person. We
Me too.
must make it happen soon.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, well, take care and speak to you soon.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Thank you for spending time with me today. If you enjoy this content, I would really appreciate it if you would rate and subscribe to my podcast. And don't forget to pass this along to anyone you know who might be considering a career change. Every little counts.